Hello, guys. Welcome to the new episode of our project management learning session. In today's episode, we'll talk about very important topics for project manager, that is project environment. In today's episode, we'll try to explain uh, five very important topics for project environment, which are enterprise environmental factors. What is it and how it impacts for project manager for their daily life in project activities. Second topics will be discussed about organizational process assets, how it's subdivided in our process, policies and procedure and knowledge repositories. Then we'll talk about organizational system, how management structure, governance framework can influence project activities in a performing organization. And then we will talk about different types of organizations, organization, how project manager and function manager balance their power in the organization so that it can influence in the project, it has some influence on the project. And finally we'll go through a very short about project management office. Okay, so let's start with the definition of project environment. By definition, it is means that environment or organization in which project operates, and definitely that organization has some influence on the project. If you just think about your project, that means you have your own team, and then you have your own internal organization, that is your organization, and then there are some external organizations such as customer. It may have some regulatories, it may have some other authorities. Okay, so that three is the most important project environment that is included in every general project. Okay, first one is your team, then internal organization, then external organization. Beside that, there are other things that is called organization system. You definitely have in your organization, you definitely have some process policies. Definitely, this is one. Second one, that you also have some influence for a specific person, or you have some power politics inside your organization as well. Okay, those things also consider as a project environment. Okay, now if I go to the considering the definition of the project, and project environment has some influence on project. So if I categorize influence, then there will be three types of influence on the project. First one is enterprise environmental factors, then organizational process assets, then organizational system. Okay, so enterprise environmental factors is mainly comes from how it considered as an enterprise environmental factor. It is normally creates constraint on the project. That's why it is considered as an enterprise environmental factors who create a constraint for projects. Okay, then second one is organization process asset. Normally it actually enhance project activities, project performance. It creates some positive impact on the project. That's why it called it as an organization process asset. And another thing is that organization system. Actually, organization system is influences some kind of mixed. For some organization structure, it may have some positive impacts, and some organization structure it may have some negative impact. But it also has some benefit as well, and it also has carrying a lot of power politics inside organization. So you also required to aware of it. Remember one thing: project manager required to solve problems every day in his daily life. That's why project manager should have very good understanding about his own project environment so that he can influence other people for the sake of project activities. So these three types of project environment will go through more detail in the later section. So remember that there is a three part. One is enterprise environmental factor, then there will be organization process asset, then there will be organization system. Okay, so beside that, you also should try to remember that most of the organizational process asset and organization system comes from your internal organization. Okay, so let's now go through about enterprise environmental factors. Now, what is it? As I told you before, that it actually has some direct or indirect influence of the management of the project. Okay, normally project manager or project team don't have any influence on them on this. That means it always create constraint for the project. It also creates roadblock for your project, and it normally comes from your outside of your organization, outside of your project by specifically. Okay, so these actually mainly some rules and regulation coming from external organization or may have some outside of your project organization. It also gives some regulation and laws which you must read to follow, must required to follow. Okay, so now let's go to some more about more types of external enterprise environmental factors. As you know that if you work in a telecommunication or something, some kind of import and export, then definitely you should follow some export control procedure, right? So this comes from external organization, and you have to follow their rules and regulation during your import and export of your products or any other equipments, okay, or your commodities or whatever it is. Okay, so this is one kind of how to say, this is one kind of policies you have to follow. It always comes from government industry, government, from government peoples. So those there will be some import rules, there will be some regulators rules, there will be some policies which comes from those organization which you have to follow 100%. Okay, this is one. Second one is that maybe from marketplace condition you also should have some ideas to get from for your peoples, right? Like, there are some cases happen that you may require to follow some competitor activities on your daily project work. So those things you also need to be aware of it. Okay, so this marketplace condition also a part, it may have some influence on your project. Then there will be some social and cultural impacts. That means when you are working in outside of your countries, then you will find that the people who are work there or people outside of your project sites, they also have some specific culture, also have some behavior guideline which you have to follow. Those is always creates constraint for your project as well. Then sometimes you may require to go through some academic research. That means some of your customer may ask you to get some certificate from external sources like ISO, and others may have some, maybe some people ask you to give some reference of test item from BUET or any other legal authorities. Okay, these are the general things which can be considered as an enterprise environmental factor. That there could have more, but you must remember that this comes as a constraint for your project, and sometimes you have no control, you just need to follow if they impose any requirement for your project. That's why it always creates negative impacts. But remember that one, you although we are saying negative impacts, but remember, if you did not follow that, then you may get some penalties from the regulators and others, which has serious impacts for your project. So don't take it as a negative. It may have some policies procedure. You must follow it, and then the social and ecosystem will run in a good manner. Okay, this is for external enterprise environmental factor. Then go through some internal enterprise environmental factors. This is little tricky. It is easy to understand for those people who work in a multinational organization. Okay, because if you work in a multinational organization, then you'll find that there are some rules and regulation coming from your headquarter. We call it as a headquarter. You may can say it as your global office or your principal office. That means they give you some guideline. Let's say for example, your office, or you can consider it, you are doing a project in Khulna division and your office in Dhaka division. What will be your prime choice? You should have some process and policies, you should have some structural uh, structural criteria so that you can understand in Kunla the site work or some project work is going running smoothly. So you should have some, how to say, criteria to evaluate that the project performing well, right? That is governing structure. Okay, so that means you may can say that every week a project team required to send back project report. They cannot avoid it because from the global office or from headquarter he is giving some rules and regulation to you so that he can understand the project his health is good, and from your side you have to follow it. So if you work in a multinational organization, then you'll find that some of the resources also come from abroad and they participate in the project, and they also have their own style, and they have some own procedure to onboard those people in your project. So you have to follow those things as well. You may have some resources, something like some test tools, some documents, some knowledge things which comes from your global office. That means if you want to collect some documents from global office, you may require to follow some process. If you want to have some test item from them, it also have some rules and regulation. They may also ask you to introduce project management software in your project. Those also comes from your global office. These are always enterprise environmental factor for your internal organization. That means enterprise environmental factor mostly come from external organization. It may can come from your internal organization. But remember one thing, normally enterprise environmental factors create constraint or roadblocks for your project. If you find something like that which actually creating constraint for your project, then definitely it will be a enterprise environmental factors. Okay. now let's go to Now let's go to organization process asset and organization process system. So before we go to organization process asset and organization more detail about organization process asset, I want to share you something in a general form that you must remember. If you know that how I can explain you that normally in a good organization there have some vision. That means for long term they have some vision, and then they make this vision in a mission. That means they may have 50 missions to achieve their to reach their visions. So that means from first level they have vision, then they have mission, and then they subdivide that mission in a objective, and then they distribute it in a project. Okay, so project director should well aware of those vision, mission, and objectives so that he can understand what is the requirement requirement for the project from the organization, and he also can share those knowledge to his project team so that they also can understand what company or what your organization need from your project. That actually help project team to solve problems every day on their project activities. They should have well understand about this process. They also should have well aware of those things like vision, mission, and objective, so that in their daily life if they found something which is not aligned with their objective, then they can avoid those activities in their project work. Okay, this is a general structure of any organization. If you go through there, if you find any good companies, then you will definitely will find vision there. They have also have some missions. It is a general things. Project manager should have good understanding about those, because he need to influence people for his project, for his project positive approach. That's why he always should have some how to say should have a better understanding about those principle and policies and regulation. Okay, then we go to about organization process asset. There are two types of organization process asset. One is process policies and procedures. Second one is organization knowledge repositories. We'll go through it in the later section. And the third and another topics is organization system, which is come from your internal organization. We'll go through it as well. How organization actually create their framework to understand project performance, how management influence project performance, how organization structure can give some influence on your project as well. Okay, Organizational process asset is actually normally says a plan, process, procedure which comes from and used by the which comes and used by the performing organization. This actually normally has some influence on the project. Normally, it has some documents, some practice or knowledge information from your prior project, which can be used in your current project. Those principles will come as a historic information from your organization, and that could be considered as a organizational process asset. Okay. So there are two categories of organizational process asset. One is process policies and procedure. Second one is organizational knowledge base. Remember one thing: enterprise environmental factors and OPA normally is the input for most of the planning process of project management process, which will be described later by me in the later episode. So we will not discuss more about this. Let's give some example about common OPA, organization process asset. Normally it is a standard process procedure guideline and measure some measurement performance measurements which come from your performance organization. It may have some templates. Maybe your organization give you some templates which can enhance your project activities. They may can give you some guideline to tailor your project management process so that it can be more useful for your project. It may give you some purchase procedure as well, which will enhance your outsourcing procedure if required to have any outsourcing in your project. It may have some standards templates. It may have some forms of procedures so that you can apply for your expenses as well. Okay, so these are very common OPS. But just recall you that if there are something there are something they someone ask you to distinguish between EAF and OPA, then remember one thing: if you normally create constraint for your project, OPA normally enhance your project activities. Please remember these things as well. So as I mentioned you, there are two type of OPA. One is process policies procedure and organizational knowledge repositories. Let's go through a little bit about process policies and procedure. Okay, now if I just give you a chance to tell you about what is process policies and procedure, okay, then you definitely will find that even in your organization there are a lot of process and policies. Like you may have some leave application process, you may have some leave application policies. Okay, so these actually are common in your organization. There may have lot of process, and each department may have different types of process and policies you must require to follow. Normally those process and policies not create bottleneck for your project, but if it is a hard logic, that means you have to be maintained, then you may consider it as a EAF. But if it is not maintain, not creating any constraint for your project, you can consider it as a OPA. Remember another thing, process policies and procedure may have some different understanding about project process group. That means you may know that there are 5 process group in project management process, that is initiating, planning, execution, monitoring and control and closing. These process policies and procedure will have different understanding or different types of process and policies required for different phases of the project, different process group of the project. So there are other common OPA as well, which I'll go through a little bit, okay, in the next slide. So if you are in a initiating and planning stage, then you may require some templates for project management plan. You may have some statement of risk. You may have some procedure to onboard your outsourcing team. You may have human resource policy required. Those things comes from your organization, and which is helpful for your initiating and planning process. When you are in a execution or monitoring controlling process, then you have to have some change control procedure. You may require to have some how to say, you may require to have some financial control procedure. You may require to have some templates to record your issues, to record your change log, or record your risk, update or record your risk as well. You may have some communication procedure which may helpful for you for during your execution and monitoring process. So you should have those process and policies for your project during when you are working, delivering your deliverables during execution, and when you are monitoring your plan work activities as a monitoring and control process. You should have a closeout project process as well, how you can close out your project, how you can establish, hand over your project to your operation team. Those definitely will have some different approach of policies. You may have different condition to hand over your project to another parties, so you should well aware of it as well. So these are a very common process and policies. Something may you still not understand what is it, like requirement traceability matrix, what is here, what is here written. You may don't understand right now, but don't worry, it will be understandable after if you go through our all the episode one by one. Okay, so don't worry about that. You may don't know something now, but it will be easier for you if you go through our episodes completely. Okay, so next topics is that knowledge organization, knowledge repositories. When you are doing a project, then there are a lot of information are generating from your project, as well as there are a lot of data also generating from your project. So what happens is that if you did not maintain those data or information, and if you don't have a standard archiving policies, then you may lose your data and information as well. So that's comes to a new understanding, that is project knowledge management. That means uh, if you are in a good organization, that organization should have some process and procedures so that they can keep all the project information in a good manner, so that any other project members or any other project later on can get help from your information as well. So you should have this process as well. You should have this awareness from your project as well, so that your team can archive your project knowledge in project information and data in right directories. Okay, so that it can work as a lesson learned for the future upcoming project for your organization as well. So you have to maintain these knowledge repositories as well for your organization, so that all your information can be archived in a correct way, and people from outside organization, even outside organization or internal organization, can get access to those documents, so that they can get help for your organization. Okay, this is the organization knowledge repositories. Now our fourth topic is organization system. This actually, if you in a broader sense, it has a high dynamics in an organization, because if you are working in a multinational organization, then they have a strict rules and regulation, so that all the organization across the world can maintain a similar harmony on their organization. They also maintain a similar patterns of process and policies by just tailoring by local office, that could understandable for your across your organization. So if you think it as a broader sense, it has a great understanding to get some ideas about organization system. But we will not go through all detail. We'll just give you a rough idea about organization system, so that we can get project manager can have some ideas about these dynamics of organization system, and later on it can help him to handle activities in daily life. Okay, there are three things you have to well aware of it for an organization system, that is management elements, governance framework, and organization structure type. We mainly focus on organization structure type because it has most important, it has impacts on your project activities. But management and governance framework also is very important, because you know how your organization, higher bodies can understand that your project is performing well and in according to your according to organization requirement. How they will understand? They will understand by imposing some governing framework, governance framework. That means they will not check you daily. They will have some process or procedures, so that they could understand, okay, how well your project is running. So that comes as a governance framework. Okay, that means they give some criteria, maybe in a monthly basis, to check your project health, and then they find it out that whether this project is carrying values for the organization or not. They may can govern in a governing structure. It may have this option not to go carry on the project for further if they find a major defects on your project. So these are all comings from your governance framework. If I consider management elements, that means you in mid level there are management staff who actually maintain harmony between governing requirement and your project output. That means management elements actually management peoples actually focus on your output, which should be aligned according to the governing requirement and organizational vision and mission. That is the main things about organization system. You only require to know, just go through these two slides, then you could understand there are some different process and policies which is maintained by governing body and management people, so that your output from the project level can enhance organization values. Okay, to make sure that that values can be sustained for a long period of time by specific rules and regulation. Now we will discuss about organization structure type, different types of organization. Let me give you one cases. Okay, let's say you are working in a project, and most of the time you spend on your project. Okay, in your organization you also have functional team, but you spend most of your time on your project, and your boss, that means your project manager, knows what you are doing. But at the time of your appraisal, you find it out that your functional manager are giving appraisal, although he don't have too much knowledge about your performance in the project. That is the case is actually okay. That means this is not good for you, right? That means although you are working in a project environment, but still your appraisal is given by your functional manager. This is the concept where organization structure comes into play. That means if your project manager don't have too much authorities on your roles and regulation or appraisal, that could be a problem for him as well. Okay, for you as well. Okay, so by considering these project manager authorities and your functional manager authorities, your role, whether you are part-time or full-time, or your project manager part-time or full-time, considering those things, there are different types of organization structure we may require to know, so that you can project manager should have greater understanding for negotiating with peoples. Okay, there are 10 categories we will discuss about, 10 categories of organization structure we'll go through. But definitely there are five important structure which is important for daily life. Okay, one is organic. That means first one is organic. Okay, organic organization structure, that is actually simply nothing, you are working as a project. Okay, that means you're it like whenever there is a task, you just follow it. Your organization just do it. There is no regulation, there is no policies, there is no procedure. If there is a work, then they just take some people from external organization or internal organization, then do it. Okay, this is very simple. So PM role here also part-time, PM authority also not too much, because your manager, that means the owner of the company, take all the power and authority, and he make all the decision by himself. Okay, There have some advantages, okay, because you don't need to lose too much money, because whenever there is a work, then you just assign assign tasks to people. There is not too much losses. It is very flexible. People can join anytime if there is a work, and then they can left anywhere, wherever they want. But disadvantage is that, there is no rules and regulation. You will not feel comfortable for long period of time to work there, okay. Then second one is the functional organization structure. That is very important. It is very common in everywhere. That means there is a department like HR, like finance. There are some quality department. There are many functional department on your organization. On top of that, you do some project work. That means project is a part-time things for functional peoples, okay. All the authority belongs to functional manager. Project manager actually role is just a part-time role, and he's not full-time for project in his project management role. So that is very common. But normally it has good things, because if you are working in a functional things, then you have a very good communication. Your boss is your functional manager, so that he will do appraisal for you, and you have good career path, because you are working in a function team. That means if you are working as a quality manager, you have a chance to become a quality director. If you are working in HR, so if you may have chance to grow in the HR field. If you are working in a finance department, you may have chance to grow in the financial department things. But definitely you will have less knowledge about project management, which may did not give you too much comfortable working in that environment, okay. So you will not like to work in a project. You want to return back to your function and do work in there, okay. So in the functional things, PM role is very short, and function manager role is very high, okay. PM cannot take any decision. Then multidivisional, there are another structure type. It is multidivision. It is similar like functional, but it has multiple functional departments. It just copy another. It's just a replica of functional things. Multiple functional department together work, okay. That is not a common here. Also, functional manager make all the take all the authorities. PM is still in the part-time roles, okay. Then there is a matrix organization. That is most important thing. That is most common for any organization. Okay, let me just forget about matrix organization. We'll first discuss about project organization. That is project oriented organization, okay. As like functional manager take all the authorities, but in project oriented organization, project manager take all the authorities. Functional manager don't have too much roles on the projects, okay. Although you may have functional team as well, but your organization only focus on project, okay. That means PM has full authorities. All the team member focus on one project. They have specific project, and they know their project manager is the appraisal authority who can give you appraisal. So you have a clear communication path. But remember one thing: if you are working in a project oriented organization, then you will find no home during the closer time of your project. If you did not have another project, then you cannot continue your work, because you don't have any strong functional team. That means you cannot, after project finish, you cannot return back to your functional team to wait for another project to come to do another project work. So you cannot do any functional things. You should not have you will not have any home after project finish, and you also will not have a good clear communication or career path in your organization as well, because you are working in a project oriented organization. You cannot grow in functional departments, okay. So this is the benefits for project oriented. Or benefit is that PM take all the authorities. You will get a good knowledge about project management. You can carry on your work in project management field. But But disadvantage is that after sometimes when project is in the closer stage, you may have no home to return, and then you may lose your job. Okay, so these functional and project oriented. In between there is a matrix organization where you have functional team as well, active functional team as well. You also have uh, project team as well. So further subdivided this matrix organization in a three part, that is weak matrix, balanced matrix, and strong matrix. In weak matrix, still functional manager has the full authority. It although is a matrix organization, but it has the how to say attributes of functional organization. So it has all the disadvantages similar to functional organization, all the disadvantages similar to functional organization. This is for weak matrix. Okay, for the balanced matrix, for the strong matrix, it is similar like or project organization. That means project manager has the full authority, project manager has the full authorities, and it has also similar advantage and disadvantage like project oriented organization. Then there is a balance matrix. Normally normally in multinational organization, it is very common balance matrix. That means functional manager also has authorities, and your project manager also has authorities. What is the advantage? Advantage is that there is a power balance between your project manager and function manager. That means function manager cannot make wrong decision about you. Your project manager also has authorities, but it may sometimes create conflicts. It may sometimes create power politics between you and between project manager and function manager. It sometimes create a sense of ownership inside you, that you have two bosses. That means your project manager also boss, your functional manager also boss. It is a how to say project manager need to negotiate with functional manager more often, because function manager also has some powers. Okay, but it is very common in multinational organization where I am working, I am working in this environment. I know there are a lot of negotiation you may require to do with your functional team, every functional team. Okay, so these five is very important. That means functional organization where functional manager take all the responsibility. Then there is a project oriented organization where project manager take all the authority. In between there is a very strong matrix organization. Even matrix organization, there are three part. There is one is weak matrix, which is near to functional manager. Then there is a strong matrix, which is near to project oriented manager. Then in between there is a balance matrix, which is very common in multinational organization, and there is a power conflict between functional manager and project manager. Okay, so this is the organization type most common. There are other few type organization, because you know that nowadays there are virtual organization. That means there is no office. People are working virtually in a software industry. That is very common. So those you know due to our requirement, project requirement, we may require to work in a virtual environment. Then you must require to understand what is the advantage of virtual. That means you have some expertise who stay abroad. You are taking those people's benefit in your organization. That is a good advantage, because in your maybe in your location there is no expertise, some similar like expertise available. So but if you hire some virtual team in another countries, then you may can get a better experience on your project. But there is also a disadvantage, because communication, there is a time difference in geographic location also creates sometimes problems. Okay, so this you also may require to consider that when you are working in a virtual environment. Then there is a hybrid structure, that is nothing like that. When you need to act as a matrix organization, you will follow matrix organization. When you require to act as a functional organization, you will act as a functional organization. When you require to act as a virtual organization, then you act as a virtual organization. Depending on your project requirement and organization requirement, you are flexible. You can go in any way. You can work as a hybrid organization, that is hybrid organization. That also has very difficulty because this is not, how to say, for very critical project it is useful, but for common project it is not so useful. Okay, and it actually not applicable for all organization, right? Maybe for very few selected organization can use this approach. Then the last one is the PMO structure. Actually, you see nowadays there are, how to say, there are project implementing everywhere. So if your organization want to follow some structure approach for doing project management, they can form PMO structure. That means there will have a functional team, that is PMO, project management office. Then PMO will carry out all the project in a synchronized way. They will have their own structure of governance, management, and structure, so that every project outputting as per organization requirements. Let's little go through about PMO more in our next topics. In our last, this is just a centralized structure, centralized uniform structure to provide support for project manager. This can be considered as a OPA. It also gives guideline, templates, software, and training for overall all over organization, all projects of your organization. There are three types of PMO structure, that is directive PMO, controlling PMO, and supporting PMO. In directive PMO, PMO's approach is to direct all the projects, and it has more control on your project. That means it will give you guideline and you have to follow it. It could be considered as a enterprise environmental factors. That means all the guideline given by PMO you have to follow. Then there is a controlling PMO. That means he just want to control the key part, key outputs, key things. Okay, he will give you controlling structure for the for projects. Okay, it has moderate control on the project work. Then there is a supportive PMO, that is most common and that is most useful for project manager. They give you guideline, they give you templates, they also give you training so that you can improve your knowledge, and they also give you lesson learned from other project as well, to give you full support to carry on your project. It has less control over the project. Okay, this is the PMO structure which may can help organization project manager to get good support from PMO if they have a PMO structure in your organization. Okay, that's all for PMO structure, and that's all for today's episode of project management. Thank you very much. Keep your momentum so that we can get better knowledge in our next episode. Thank you.